Hi, this is Brenda Renee with Mystical Empress. Yesterday I went to a sacred cacao ceremony to do shamanic work. I had some questions that I needed to get answers to about my own life. And I've never used any kind of substance to do shamanic journeying work. I really try to stay as unaffected by mood altering, hallucinogenic kind of substances, because my family background has a lot of addicts in it, and I don't want to take on any of that stuff for myself. So I've always tried to stay away from anything. I used to drink some, but I don't really do that anymore. I keep my energy really clear of anything that puts me out of my space. I'm Pisces rising, so I also have a very strong Neptune in my chart, so I don't like to be out of my body, out of my consciousness for that length of time. I do my meditations, I do my journeying work, but I always make sure that I'm safe. And a friend of mine came to visit me, and she and I used to work at a bookstore together. I did readings and she worked the store, and she flew in from Minnesota, and she came to visit, and she said, "Hey, I'm going to this ceremony. Do you want to go?" And we talked about cacao because I didn't know what kind of effect it was going to have on me. And she said it's really light. So, and it's mainly caffeine. Caffeine I'm pretty sensitive to, but I said, okay, let's try this. But before I went, I thought about it, and I thought, okay, I don't want to put myself into a situation that's really open with a bunch of strangers that I don't know what they're dragging into the circle, into the ceremony. I don't want to pick anything up. I mean, I can obviously clean it, but why even, go through the hassle if you don't have to? Years ago, when I lived in the South, and I was really new to metaphysics and New Agey kind of things, a friend recommended that I go to this Native American, I'm still not sure he was, sweat lodge. And when I went, in the South, you're very, very lucky to find anybody that knows anything about this kind of stuff. So when you find somebody, you jump on it. And this was one of my major experiences in discernment. I went to this lodge, and when I got there, I noticed everyone there was victimized. They were all telling their horror stories of their traumas in their lives, and there was no light at all. And the guy that was heading it up, the supposed Native American, he kept telling me, "You have a lot of power. You're going to join us. You're going to come back and you're going to join us." Well, that felt like cult conditioning to me. And I'm really super sensitive to anything like that. But anyway, I did the lodge and went in the teepee, did the whole thing, and I left there. I barely left there. I had the worst migraine of my life. I couldn't even move. And I was just a heap lying on his couch trying to get up to get home. And after that experience, I learned to be very, very careful of who I share my energy with, especially in a situation that opens you up to entities, to people's agendas. And I hear so many of my clients, and it really worries me. They come to me and, just because somebody says they're a guru or a teacher does not mean they're of the light. And so many people go to these ceremonies, they They do these plant, like ayahuasca, they do these plant substances. They get completely out of their bodies. They're in a space where anything can happen. And so yesterday, I wanted to make sure I was walking into some light. And I went to this lady's website and I looked at it, and immediately I felt good about it. And then when I got there, you know, I measured up the environment. I said, okay, how does this feel? Felt good. The people there felt fine. I didn't get any impressions of darkness or anything like that. Another thing that I watch, and it never fails, every single time I've ever been to a new agey kind of thing, it can be a full moon ritual, it doesn't matter what it is, there's always going to be somebody there that's really theatrical and dramatic, and I'm not comfortable with that. I'm a Scorpio. I don't do the theatrics. And so for me, most of my studies, most of my encounters have been private. I'm if I do say so myself, an amazing student and self-teacher. I had to be growing up in the South because I couldn't afford to jet out on a plane every time I wanted to go to a workshop. I have been to a lot of workshops, but it was of necessity for me to learn. And I'm a Syrian, and that counts for a lot of my obsession with learning. I've got 11 books in there on my desk right now that I'm working on. I'm constantly reading, I'm constantly learning, and that's my life. People see me out in public and they're like, oh, are you a college student? No, hadn't been a college student in quite a while. But I believe that to be on this planet, we need to continue to learn. Nobody knows it all, and we need to continue to take in more and more and more information. And it may be the Syrian in me, it just may be the teacher in me, I don't know. But I went to this ceremony yesterday, and I was very pleased. The space was nice, the shaman was nice, teacher, and I've done many, many journeys, and so it was easy for me to get into. But what I was really looking for was, is there a difference by drinking this cacao, which is basically chocolate. It's not chocolate milk, but it's a chocolate drink. And I mixed some cayenne pepper in there. I learned yesterday that cayenne actually syncs up all the bodies, the mental, the astral, the emotional bodies. Now, I really liked that because in the South, we use a lot of cayenne pepper in Cajun dishes, all of our seafood. So now I'm going to start adding even more cayenne to some of the most unexpected places to me, like my tea and stuff. So anyway, I did the meditation, the journey work, got some Reiki healing. It was really an awesome experience. And when we got ready to leave, my friend said, I don't know if I got very much out of it. I had a really hard time. I didn't see things. So that's the purpose of this video. After all this talking, I want to get to the purpose of why I'm doing this video. So we all have our styles of learning. Some of us learn visually, some of us learn orally, some of us are kinesthetic, where we got to actually do something physical to take in new information. I tend to be a visual learner. In my psychic perceptions, I get a lot of visual stuff. Clairvoyance. Also, I'm an empath, so I feel things. And sometimes the visual comes as a physical feeling impression. So I told my friend, I said, well, You need to start learning how your perceptions come to you. Do you get them visually? Do you hear things? Just pay attention to that. And I know this girl. I mean, we're good friends, and I know her struggles. She's somebody like me. She's constantly studying, but she gets frustrated because she doesn't feel like she's really making progress in some of the things she wants to do. So anyway, because of all the journey work I've done, these things come easy. And that's how it is with a lot of this psychic stuff. If you wanted to train for a marathon, or if you wanted to be in a marathon, you wouldn't show up at the start line never running, a day of your life. You train, you prepare. And psychic gifts are the same way. You have to practice, practice, practice. So anyway, I'm going to give you my little meditation. You can take what you want from it, or it may spark new ideas for you. What I do, when I'm doing a journey for myself or for someone else, I generally have a recorded drumming session. So I don't have to focus on physical movement, and I can, but I really like to go down as deep and be still as possible. So the drumming that I listen to is Sandra Ingerman. She has a disc of different speeds of drumming, different styles. And mine's pretty, it's just pretty level. It's not a lot of different sounds. So I put it in my iPod and I listen to it. I lie down, and I close my eyes, and the first thing I see is I'm standing in a hallway. And the hallway doesn't really matter. It kind of feels like an outdoor, like a hallway outdoors. And I start with my root chakra. I go up the chakras. I start with the base chakra, and I give it a symbol that I can use as many of my 5 senses to connect with it. The color of the root chakra is red. I always put a strawberry there. I know how a strawberry tastes, the texture of it, the smell of it, the visual of it. And once I get that locked into place, then I expand this red glowing ball. Then I move up to my sacral chakra, the second chakra, and I see an orange. And the orange, again, I know the way it smells, the way it tastes, the way it looks. And just locking that image in, it helps me really connect with the energy of the second chakra. So I enlarge that, get up to the solar plexus. This one I can use a lemon, or I can use the sun, but I always see it really glowing bright. Then the heart, I always see a heart shape made of green lush leaves. Then the throat chakra. Now this one I bring in a gemstone to my mind, aqua aura, because it's very clear and it's very beautiful light blue. Then the third eye, I see, a lot of times I'll see a starry dark night, not black, but a dark blue. And then on the crown chakra, I see like a fan-shaped crown in purple. And so after I get all of that done, I'm standing at the top of a staircase, 22 steps. I count my way down. And it's interesting because a lot of times I'll be wearing something. Red dresses are pretty prominent in these, and it's not that I try to imagine what I'm wearing. Sometimes I'm in moccasins, sometimes I'm in a red dress, sometimes I'm in nice high heels, but I start descending the steps. And when I get to the bottom of the steps, there's this beautiful ornate garden door. And I think I get this because I loved the book, The Secret Garden. That was one of my favorite stories when I was a kid. So I see this door, and it's absolutely beautiful, and there's roses and vines growing all over this wall that surrounds this garden. And my little fairy folk friends are standing there. The gnomes are there. They're guarding the door. I give them a gift like cake, milk, jewels, crystals, and they hand me a key. I unlock the door, and when I cross into this threshold, my power animals are standing there. And I have a lot of carnivore power animals. So I give them meat, like the hawk, I give like a rabbit or the flesh of one. The eagle, a fish. Cheetah, flesh. The butterflies, they have their flowers, and on and on. So I always go into a journey with a specific intention, whether it's for a client or whether it's for myself. I know before I ever enter that journey what I'm going there for. And yesterday, before we did the journey, we were supposed to have one intention, and I ended up with 3, but I kept that secret. She was just trying to make sure we could handle the information that we got during the journey, and since I'm well experienced in this, I didn't have to worry about that. So anyway, after I feed everybody, then I turn to this old tree, a hollowed tree. In shaman school, we learn to enter the lower world either through a tree or through a cave. Personally, I prefer trees to caves. Caves creep me out just a hair. So I go into this tree, and there's like a staircase down, and there's a crow. And he's like my guide down to the underworld. And there's these little lanterns lit up so I can see my way. And then I open up into like a meadow, a bunch of wildflowers, beautiful place. And I go to the edge of the woods or forest, and there's a sacred pool that I'll sit down and wait. That's my pattern that I do to get in, okay? And when you do this enough, you develop your little routine. And the more you do it, the more you strengthen that routine, okay? Now yesterday, her guidance was just go to your secret garden. Go to your garden in your heart. Cacao connects you with your heart chakra. And the cool thing about it, it's a very feminine yin energy. And it actually acts as a guide. The ayahuasca is a masculine yang energy. And it just sets you out. I mean, you take it and you are on this journey by yourself. And you're going to hallucinate and all this stuff. This cacao is much more subtle and light. You don't hallucinate. You don't ever feel out of control of yourself. So anyway, once I get to my little pool, I'm sitting on like a moss rock, and I'm waiting. And then anything can happen. I don't predict what's going to happen. I just let it happen. And so yesterday, as soon as I got there, my eagle